In the mines of Otis, a miner from Red Creek, a desperate search for gold continues as he tirelessly digs for hours. Just as he yearns for gold, a total lunar eclipse takes hold of the sky, causing the ground to tremble. The Lotus Maid, a mystical object, begins to glow, and when Otis touches it, his hand ignites in flames. Suddenly, a dark cloud emerges from the hole possessing Otis. It burns a circle on his chest and darkens his eyes. A month later in Wyoming, Sheriff Roy welcomed his daughter Charlotte and her fiancé Angus at the train station. Roy disapproves of Angus, believing his daughter deserves someone better. However, Charlotte pleads with her father to accept Angus, as he brings her happiness and a sense of security. Before they can fully reunite, a group of 5 bandits, led by Zeke, interrupts their gathering. Their aim is to abduct as many civilians as possible. Roy quickly hides Charlotte inside the station and takes cover behind a pile of luggage to join the ensuing gunfight. Zeke sneaks up on Roy, but Roy swiftly shoots him first. As he attempts to confront the remaining bandits, a mysterious figure shoots Roy from behind. Moments later, Roy finds himself in a strange office, where he vomits into a bucket. Hannah, the woman who greets him, explains that Roy is dead and has arrived in heaven. She assures him that Charlotte is safe. This office belongs to the Rest in Peace Department known as the RIPT, which serves as God's police force. They are responsible for apprehending Deptos, souls of the dead who have escaped judgment and cause havoc on Earth by possessing ordinary people. Hannah reveals that she is one of the RIPT agents. Hannah guides Roy to the armory, where he is impressed by the quality of the weapons. However, Roy insists on sticking to his favorite gun. Hannah explains that only the RIPT's holy weapons can kill Deptos. After selecting a gun, Roy notices a snake symbol on the floor known as the Ouroboros, symbolizing life, death, and rebirth. When Adito possesses someone, this symbol appears on their chest. Hannah informs Roy that his first mission is to investigate a strange presence that emerged in Red Creek during the eclipse. She reminds him that returning to Earth means focusing on the case rather than seeking revenge for his own death. Roy reluctantly accepts, sealing the deal by spitting on his hand and shaking Hannah's hand. At that moment, the RIPT logo is branded on Roy's chest, causing a burning sensation. Later, Hannah places Roy inside a machine that transports him back to Earth. Roy materializes inside a portable toilet and vomits into a bucket once again. As he steps outside, he narrowly avoids a stampede of bison. Suddenly, a woman and 2 horses appear beside him. This woman, named Jean, is a fellow RIPT agent who will assist Roy on the Eclipse case. Although Roy prefers to work alone, Jean explains that they must follow orders. Furthermore, Jean has been dead for 445 years, providing her with the knowledge to guide Roy through his first day as a dead on Earth. Still skeptical, Roy rides away, determined to take matters into his own hands. Meanwhile, Zeke and his gang are in the midst of robbing a bank. Instead of taking the money, they opt to kidnap more people. Slim, one of the bandits, repeatedly makes mistakes, irritating Zeke as he is the only adopted member among the 5 brothers. As law enforcement arrives, a gunfight ensues. Slim, without a weapon to defend himself, becomes vulnerable. Back to Roy, he returns home to see his daughter, but before he can call out to Charlotte, Jean pulls him away. Filled with anger, Roy engages in a physical confrontation with Jean. Surprisingly, Roy discovers that he possesses enhanced reflexes compared to when he was alive. The fight ends in a draw as both agents draw their weapons simultaneously. Jean uses her sword to reveal Roy's altered appearance. To others, Roy and Charlotte now appear as 2 black women. Roy also learns that he has been buried next to his wife and his body was taken by coyotes after he was shot. Jean explains that this illusion is necessary to prevent confusion among humans when encountering the returning dead. Roy believes that being a black woman will make his mission more challenging due to racism and misogyny. However, Jean suggests that God chose this illusion for a reason, as there is something for Roy to learn. They agree to pose as bounty hunters to conceal their true identities. Finally, Jean informs Roy that if he attempts to communicate with his loved ones, his words will come out as incomprehensible babble. Their conversation is interrupted by Henry, Roy's best friend, who arrives with flowers for the graves. Roy pretends to be mute while Jean engages in conversation with Henry. It pains Roy to hear both the good and bad things Henry has to say about him. Henry updates them on the current situation in town. Angus has been kidnapped by the bandits, and while 3 members were apprehended at the bank, 2 remain at large. Roy is determined to rescue Angus to ensure his daughter's safety, disregarding Jean's reminder that this is not their primary mission. On a nearby road, the 3 captured bandits are being transported in a cage by marshals. Roy plans to gather information about Angus' whereabouts from them. Roy is also confused because he shot Zeke back at the station, yet Henry mentioned 2 bandits still on the loose. When the marshals stop to relieve themselves, Jean notices the Ouroboros symbol on the bandits' chests. This revelation indicates that this encounter is part of their mission and Jean can be of assistance. Jean approaches the marshals, pretending that her sister is injured and convinces two of them to follow her. Meanwhile, Roy pretends to be unconscious. As soon as the marshals approach, both agents swiftly strike, rendering them unconscious. They then pursue the remaining bandits on horseback. The carriage drivers, sensing danger, flee the scene. Roy manages to hold onto the carriage and leaps onto its roof. One of the marshals shoots Roy, mistakenly assuming he killed him. When they stop to investigate, Roy frightens one marshal by pretending to be a ghost, while Jean incapacitates the other. Roy attempts to open the cage but fails, prompting Jean to use holy water on one of the bandits. The Dido painfully emerges, transforming into a monstrous figure that breaks the cage and attacks. Roy quickly dispatches it with his specialized gun. The second bandit surprises Roy, seizing his gun, but Jean swiftly eliminates him. They then discover that the third bandit is Slim. While Jean takes Slim away for interrogation, Roy finds discarded wanted posters and realizes that Slim is being framed for his supposed murder. Fueled by anger, Roy punches Slim, who fails to recognize him and insists on his innocence. Slim pleads that he never shot anyone. Roy contemplates killing Slim, but Jean reminds him to focus on their mission. Realizing they need Slim for more information, Jean splashes a drop of holy water on him to inflict pain. Slim finally starts talking, revealing that a powerful Dedo named Otis is behind the bandits' actions. Otis has been orchestrating the kidnappings, delivering captives to Red Creek as part of a secret plan. Slim admits to being unaware of the specifics, but mentions that the people are being imprisoned. He also discloses that somehow Otis has managed to avoid detection from the Ripped. Jean and Roy decide to travel to Red Creek to investigate further, keeping Slim tied to the horses. Whenever Slim cracks a bad joke, Roy playfully shoots him with his regular gun, which is nothing more than a tickle to a Dido. Meanwhile, a woman named Nell reports to Otis that Zeke has added more people to the captive group. However, the bandits are becoming skeptical about Otis' true origin and doubt his claims. Otis explains that he escaped through a limbo fragment when the gateway weakened during the eclipse. The captives must continue digging because if Otis completes his plan during the upcoming blood moon, he will permanently weaken the gateway and establish his rule over Earth. Otis checks on the latest captives and confronts Zeke, who still harbors doubts about him. Otis punishes Zeke by extracting the Dido inside him and shooting it with his ripped gun. This display frightens the other Deptos, compelling them to follow Otis without question. Several hours later, Roy and Jean arrive in Red Creek, covering Slim's face to prevent recognition due to the wanted posters. They are surprised to find the town nearly empty, with a few remaining citizens appearing sickly. Mayor Julius is forcing them to work, even if they are ill, as they are solely focused on survival. The townspeople pay no attention to the arrival of two black women. The group attempts to check into the hotel, where, to their surprise, Mayor Julius himself is working as the receptionist. He points to a sign indicating that black people are not admitted. Roy, brandishing his gun, threatens Julius until he reluctantly burns the sign. This triggers Jean's PTSD, causing her to turn away. Subsequently, Julius calls for the maid, Beverly, and pretends to be friendly toward women and black people. He asks her to escort their new clients to their room. In the bedroom, Roy and Jean question Beverly about the situation in the town. She explains that the sickness started a month ago, but they are uncertain about its cause. Julius claims it is related to the water supply, but nobody believes him. The town has been empty since the previous night when everyone left to follow rumors of gold found in the mines. After Beverly departs, Roy and Jean agree that Julius must know something. Jean points toward the mines, believing they may find answers there. Speaking of the mines, the kidnapped individuals are provided masks to protect themselves from the illness contaminating the air. When a man loses consciousness, his daughter contemplates giving him her mask, but Angus reminds her that removing it would result in death. He demonstrates this by briefly removing his own mask, causing his body to shake uncontrollably. Angus promptly puts the mask back on, assuring the lady that her father only needs rest. Back at the hotel, Julius is feeling increasingly unwell, coughing up blood. To conceal his condition, he unlocks his desk drawer, retrieves a pair of scissors, and cuts a piece of the curtain, inadvertently forgetting to lock the desk again. In a rush, Julius exits the building to meet Otis and request a mask as a reward for his assistance. After much pleading, Otis reluctantly agrees to provide Julius with a mask, but reminds him that only the workers receive them. Otis's men forcefully push Julius into a carriage, tying him up. Meanwhile, Roy and Jean secure Slim to a bathtub to prevent his escape. Slim attempts to convince them of his trustworthiness, explaining that when he was alive, he was merely a thief, not a murderer or truly evil. As a demonstration, he steals Roy's gun when Roy approaches but allows Roy to retrieve it, emphasizing that he could have shot them both but chose not to. Roy wonders if the real Slim is still present within the body, but Jean explains that it is impossible as the Ditto is manipulating them. When Slim mentions that the kidnapped people were taken to the church, Roy and Jean decide to investigate. They find the church in ruins, triggering a flashback for Jean. The place is deserted, but Roy discovers a piece of Angus' clothing, confirming his presence in the vicinity. Suddenly, they hear screams and rush outside, encountering Julius in the carriage. Julius reveals that Otis has captured the entire town and taken them to the mine. He mentions something about opening a gateway, and Jean realizes that they are digging a hole into hell. The poisonous gas emanating from the hole is causing people to fall ill. Once the hole is large enough, damned souls will emerge and possess everyone in the world. Before they can continue their conversation, Otis's men arrive and initiate a fight. Roy and Jean do their best to defend themselves but are outnumbered and soon overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Beverly, feeling sick herself, discovers the hole in the curtain and the open drawer, revealing a special order for the printing press. Shocked, she goes to Roy's room and frees Slim, showing him that he was indeed framed. Julius had bribed the press workers to create fake wanted posters. Beverly begins coughing blood, and Slim thanks her for his freedom by providing her with a mask. He also reveals a hidden stash of masks in the church to be shared with everyone. Slim departs to assist the Ripped in the mines. Roy and Jean are placed in a cell after their weapons are confiscated. Nell recognizes Jean from their previous time in the Ripped, explaining that she used to be a Ripped agent as well before going rogue. This revelation clarifies why Otis lacks a Ripped gun. A guard brings Angus to the cell, and Angus attempts to fight him off. However, more guards arrive and overpower him. Roy is impressed by Angus's determination and admits he had misjudged him. Pretending to be a compassionate woman, Roy engages Angus in conversation about his marriage. Roy explains that fathers sometimes feel threatened by their daughters' boyfriends, fearing they will be replaced or left alone. Angus assures Roy that he never intended such harm and always respected him. Touched by Angus's words, Roy gives him a picture of Charlotte that he always carried with him. At midnight, the gateway begins to break, and Otis instructs Nell to gather all the prisoners to initiate the ritual. The guards remove everyone from the cells except for Roy and Jean. Nell taunts them for their failure, and Otis reveals that they will be thrown into the pit last, just before the abyss closes. Nell refers to Jean as Joan Dark before departing. Roy finally realizes that Jean is the famous historical figure and understands her fear of fire. He feels proud that he had the opportunity to work with her. As the prisoners continue digging, the gateway to hell finally opens, allowing damned souls to escape and possess anyone within their reach, turning them into Deptos. Angus manages to dodge them as long as possible and helps people flee from the mines. Returning to Jean's plan, she explains to Roy that to close the gate, it must first extinguish the hellfire. When Jean was alive, she discovered a file containing the tears of Christ, which could potentially be used if they managed to escape. Just then, Slim appears, and the guards allow him to take Roy's gun, assuming he is one of them. However, Slim is merely pretending and uses the gun to kill one of the guards. In the ensuing scuffle, the other guard accidentally drops Jean's sword. Jean reaches through the bars, grabs the sword, and kills the remaining guard. Slim presents Roy with evidence of his framing and asks Jean to grant him a retrial for his soul, as he believes he doesn't deserve hell. The agents decide to trust Slim, and he sets them free. Now they must devise a plan. Jean suggests that Roy throw the tears into the gateway because she cannot go near fire due to her death. However, Roy refuses, stating that the tears chose her. After leaving the tears with Jean, Roy and Slim head to the mines, pretending that Slim is keeping Roy as a prisoner. When they encounter Otis, Roy attempts to shoot him, but the damned souls shield Otis, protecting him. The duo starts shooting the Deptos, and Roy asks Slim to assist Angus and the remaining humans in evacuating while he continues the fight. Jean also joins the battle and eliminates a Ditto just before it attacks Julius. Another enemy pounces on Roy, causing him to roll toward the gateway. Jean sees the fire and experiences flashbacks of her death, but her determination to protect people overrides her fear. She jumps over the gateway, dropping the teeters into the hole and killing the Ditto holding Roy. The gateway immediately begins closing, pulling the damned souls back inside, including Nell. Roy and Jean hold onto Jean's sword to avoid being absorbed, while Slim and the humans cling to the cell bars. The agents believe it's all over, but Azarath, revealed to be Otis's true form and the right hand of the devil, appears. Azarath strikes Roy and Jean with his powers, causing Jean to drop the tears. Despite attacking Azarath with their holy weapons, they cannot harm him. However, Jean uses her crucifix to distract Azarath, allowing Roy to pick up the vial of tears and load them into his weapon. He shoots Azeroth, finally killing him. The sun rises as everyone returns to town and reunites with their loved ones. Slim finds Julius hiding and forces him to confess the truth. Julius ran away when Otis arrived in town and mistakenly believed that the bandits were after him. In an attempt to protect himself, Julius shot Roy, thinking he was part of the gang. Zeke took Julius away, and Roy's bullet had no effect on him since he had been a Dito all along. Roy decides that the town needs a new sheriff to maintain order, and Beverly suggests Slim for the position, with her as the deputy. Roy approves, and Beverly takes Julius to jail. Roy and Jean accept leaving Slim behind until his retrial, as he has proven his trustworthiness. Later, Roy and Jean attend Charlotte and Angus's wedding. Roy realizes that he can't communicate with Charlotte, but for some reason he now speaks gibberish to Angus as well. Jean wishes the couple the best, and Roy hugs Charlotte, making her feel as though she has known Jean her whole life. As they leave town, Jean explains that since Roy now accepts Angus, he has become a loved one, which is why his speech was gibberish. The duo returns to the portable toilet to go back to the ripped office. Roy expresses frustration, but is willing to continue working with Jean. As he steps into the portable toilet, he is unexpectedly struck by a bison once again. Please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.